quick version. Funny story, I've actually put a Turbo Smart wastegate on a 5,000 horsepower diesel engine. I would like to tell 15-year-ago me that the people that you're doing this with are people you're going to know forever. To hell with the cars. I mean, these people are family at this point. Hi, I'm Farhan at Damond Motorsports. I kind of do a little bit of everything except shipping stuff. I suck at that. Design stuff, procurement, let's say corporate development, which is a fancy way to make sure that we don't go out of business, I guess. Yeah, where the company's going, where we're getting stuff, what we're selling, all that good stuff, as well as, obviously, like I said, the design stuff. I don't know where I missed it in Matt's story, but he didn't mention his, what was it, a 97 or 99 Camry that you had, Matt? So my first car was actually a 98 Toyota Camry with the 5SFE bulletproof freaking engine that I bought off my dad while I was still in college. It was white. It was some like American edition or something, which meant they put some features in. Apparently we value in other features that we don't. Anyway, bought that off my dad when I was in school, and the worst car mistake I've ever made was selling that car. Really wish I didn't sell that damn car. I think would have still been going. I think I got rid of it when it had like 180,000 miles or something. And the only thing wrong with it was one of the radio buttons didn't work. Like I couldn't hit the, favorite number 5 or something. The first kind of race car was the Speed 6. Prior to that, I had the Camry and I had a Ram. And similar story to Matt's. I was looking to get out of the Ram because turns out Rams are kind of a piece of shit. Like, I love the motors, I love Hemis, but everything around the damn thing, the power steering pump, this thing, that, and idler pulleys, like, got a truck with 80,000 miles and friggin' everything's going bad with it. So I'm gonna get out of this thing because I really had no need for a truck at the time. So I asked a couple of friends what cars I should look at or something. I really wasn't into Subarus, even though I wanted a all-wheel drive setup, maybe the sedan, something with a little zip. And somebody mentioned to me, you're looking at a Mazdaspeed 3, but don't want it because it's front-wheel drive. There's also a Mazdaspeed 6 that's all-wheel drive. Similar to Matt's story, 3 days later, lo and behold, I have a Mazdaspeed 6. And bought it at a Mitsubishi dealership, so I got a hell of a deal on it too. And that was about probably 2009, 2010. The first thing I did to it was actually get a short shift plate from a manufacturer that shall remain unnamed. Rhymes with Lamey. And it was kind of a piece of shit, to be honest with you. Wasn't a big fan of the product. So I had some trouble with that thing. Couldn't get into gear. Didn't like how it went together, and at some point it started rusting. I think the second thing I probably bought, though, was a rear differential mount. So kind of more, not real high horsepower, make a lot of noise stuff. More things just make it more livable, I guess. I'm going to give a shout out to Clint here. Clint and Joanna and Andrew. So the first racing event I ever participated in was actually an autocross. And it was because I was down with Champaign County Sports Car Club. And I was with those three just hanging out. And they all but picked me up and threw me into a car to get me out on track. I mean, I was just like, no, I'm not doing this. I've never done anything. I'm not going to go out there. I can't see the lines. I don't know where the cones are, blah, 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 blah. And no joke, seriously, I think at some point Andrew might have actually picked me up and said, you're going. Like, I think he might have carried me to registration. And Clint and John just weren't hearing me not racing. So that was the first time I did any sort of racing, got hooked. The story of how the drag Speed 6 was born was kind of me just saying, I want to make horsepower, I think. And I think at some point I saw, the stock speed, the stock Mazdaspeed quarter mile record, stock turbo Mazdaspeed quarter mile record seemed very achievable to me. Way, way slower than other platforms out there, right? So it was one of those things where you're like, I can do that. went on Facebook and found some guy selling his car for super cheap, which obviously is just, that's just going to enable you. You're like, I got this stupid idea. Oh man, this is cheap. I can do this. And of course, we're way into, the amount of money we spent has gone well past what the cost of the car was. So, actually, the guy was a Damond customer, and he actually let it go for even cheaper than he had advertised it, I think, because I told him I'm going to try and go set records with the car. It showed up with the transmission in the trunk, with the engine just held on with nothing but a passenger mount kind of hanging out from there. And the reason I got it was because I wanted to get into a different form of racing. I'd done autocross at the time. I had another car for road courses at the time and really wanted to go out there and see what we can get done with drag racing. So did that. We set the stock turbo record, obviously, and then from there it was, okay, we've achieved this, and the goal was ultimately add a lot of horsepower. Now, obviously, it's sat for a little while, but we'll see if we can get back into it in 2025 here. When I met Matt, he was actually hosting Mazdaspeed car meets at his house, at his parents' house, where he was living at the time. He was just a little young buck back then. Just saw something on a forum. He was hosting this meet. I'm like, this local guy's hosting this meet. It looks like there's going to be a bunch of people there. And just went and showed up, and this guy's out here able to wrench, do a bunch of stuff on his car. And not just his car, he's helping a bunch of other people out there. Hell, we must have had 20 other people there at the time. I think that's where I met a few other people that we still stay in touch with. So met Matt, and to me, it was like, yeah, this guy knows his way around a car. So my background was actually not really wrenching on cars. I had grown up doing stuff at the church, wrenching, doing woodwork more than anything else, trying to maintain the facilities, making a bunch of stuff with wood. So I knew my way around tools. I knew how to use my hands. I didn't necessarily know exactly how to apply all that to cars. I had spent 2 years in autos class in high school, but how much is an autos class really going to teach you, right? You have a bunch of instructions and stuff then, and kind of somebody watching you all the time. That doesn't mean it translates into the real world. So with Matt, kind of saw an opportunity. Hey, this guy could teach me something. So I asked him, hey, can we do this rear diff mount? Oh, Matt says, yeah, not today. Too many people here. That's a little bit of a harder job. We figured out another day we could we could set up to do it, and came back and knocked it out real quick that day. One of the distinct things I remember from when I came back to do that diff mount. So your experience must have been something, like people that really don't know how to use their hands is my guess. Because he comes under there. I'm laying under the car, right? We got the car in the air. I'm laying under the car. He knows the sizes of all the nuts and bolts. Like he seems to always know. And he hands me a wrench. He's like, do this. I'm going to grab this other wrench for the next step. And he he said, I'm going to grab another one of the same size so I can get to the other side or something. And by the time he's got the other tool and gets into their car, I got them both loose. So that's like, that was pretty quick. The next step, he's like, yeah, that was pretty quick too. He's like, so you know how to wrench? I'm like, I've never done it, but seems like it's pretty straightforward. I mean, this isn't rocket science. So we hit it off right away just when we started working on cars, because both of us knew how to work around each other and how to get stuff done. Is what it came down to, I think. The first product we worked on together is probably still one of my favorite products for Damond Motorsports, and it's the short shift plate. So eventually, if you know Matt's story for Damond Motorsports, really what it was is he saw a need for something, he wanted to try something out, and he decided he's going to make this thing, and a bunch of people said, hey, I want one too, let's go. What I saw was I bought an aftermarket short shift plate from a different manufacturer, different company, and it was a piece of crap. I didn't think I got the customer service or support that I think somebody that buys a product deserves. So decided that I'm going to make my own. And since Matt already had a few people that were buying stuff from her, I said, hey, Matt, what do you think about selling this thing? So, I went through measuring everything I could and making sure it was made right. Found some deficiencies in the other product, and I fixed them. Said, I think this product will work real well. We tried it on my car. I think we tried it on Matt's car too, and it worked well, and he started selling it. So that's kind of our first product was a short shift plate, and that's kind of how we started building a little bit of a relationship, even though I wasn't really Damond Motorsports at the time. So I actually remember the day when I said, I'm going to get into Damond Motorsports. And it was the first time we went down to Daytona. It was you, me, Dan, and Chris. That first time we went down to Daytona, I'm trying to kind of describe where I was without really describing where I was. So we're in the outfield, we're camping on site at Daytona. This is the Rolex 24 that we've been down to a few times now. We're down at the Rolex 24, and the four of us are somewhere in the outfield walking around. There's middle of the day, and at some point it was, why the hell don't I just get into this with him? So at that point in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get into this business and really take it off, because you've always taken care of the people that have bought stuff from you, right? And even the people that don't buy stuff from you. I mean, think about it. Who the hell really holds a meet at their house and spends all day just helping people and getting nothing back, right? And you were doing that every month or two or three. And to be honest, Chris and I started doing that probably because you were doing it, right? You set an example for us. So the whole Nader spirit that I won't go into here, look it up. The whole Nader spirit was really live and strong, and I don't generally like people, to be honest, but I'm good with parts, and Matt, for whatever reason, likes people and knew how to run that side of stuff. So we said, let's get into this. Let's make this something bigger. So when I was standing in the outfield of Daytona, the first time we went to the Rolex 24 at a very specific spot near the fence. You may know what I'm talking about. So our first product actually wasn't our first product. It was the product that let me know that this can actually work and that this may actually take off. That product was the rear motor mount for the Speed 3. We had some growing pains with that product, and the design's been refined probably 3-4 times since then. That product let me know that we can actually make something of this company, because we kind of had this design, and at the time, you know, Matt was kind of doing stuff out of the garage sort of thing. It was when he had free time, so he was selling a few catch cans here and there. I was kind of making some shift plates, and we were selling a few here and there. And we designed this rear motor mount and say, hey, who'd be interested? Here's our design and our design. You compare it to anybody else out there that sells a rear motor mount for the Speed 3. Our design's pretty unique. It's different. It's, and if I may be so bold, it's better. The design is actually better. And everybody sees it and goes, holy crap, I want one of those. I mean, we had 50 people signed up for that thing, I think in a few days or a week or two or something like that. So to go from, you know, selling some small amount of mounts and plates and whatnot to 50 people signed up before we even really put one out to any people on the forums was incredible. Now, what we did have, again, so you guys may wonder why Chris is here once in a while. It's because Chris has been part of our lives forever. Chris was actually the first tester of that rear motor mount. So made the first prototypes and went over to Chris's house, and we put that thing on, and you know, Chris starts testing it. A day or two later says, dude, something's a little off. So we go back to Chris's, and and we're wrenching in people's driveways at this point. It's not like we got a shop. It's not like we got a dedicated space. It's either his driveway, Matt's driveway, our parents' driveway, whatever. So Chris tests this thing out, and once we had it dialed in pretty well, we went to market with that thing. And that, I think that kind of established what we were going to do with Damond forevermore, right? Where we have an idea, and this may seem trivial to people, but there's a lot of people that don't test their products, right? There's a reason we say tested, is because we really do test this stuff. So we made this product, and Chris went out and put it through its paces and said, here's what I think is a little goofy or doesn't act right. So we made design changes for that stuff, and then came back with a better design that really he was happy with, and we sent out a few more parts to testers around the country. And once they were happy with it is when we really put it out there and said, okay, here go 50 of them, and the next batch was 100, and geez, I mean, we're well into the many thousands of that. So that part is what really convinced me when the first 50 people signed up and said, I want one. That's the part that convinced me that we could make something of this. My project cars. Oh man, honestly, it seems like every car is a project car nowadays. To talk about my project cars, I should probably count how many cars I actually have. So I got what I still call the daily Speed 6. It's not a daily, clearly, because it's sitting right over there and it's probably been sitting there for a year at this point, or has been sitting for a year or more. I have the daily Speed 6. I have the drag Speed 6, Project ST that, well, you already know. My actual daily driver, the wife's daily driver, and the Corolla. Okay, so 4 of those are cars that we should probably do something with. And here's what I want to do with each of them. The daily Speed 6. I want to make this into a killer street car. What I'm thinking, we're big supporters of BNR. I'm thinking a BNR 6, BNR S6, with all, obviously, the built motor and everything that has to go with that. That car has a special place in my heart, though. I'm not sure I've ever mentioned it before, but that car... So that Speed 6 that I bought back in 2009, that I met Matt with, that I met Chris with, while Chris and I were actually living together, we had a house together. While Chris and I were actually living together, I totaled that Speed 6, and I'm standing on the shoulder of the highway, and I decided right there I'm going to get another Speed 6. The only thing I didn't know is if it was going to be white or if it was going to be red. Over the next 2 days, I decided it's going to be red, and I, by some miracle, found a car that was traded in Texas that had all but, I think the VIN was off 2 digits from my original car. I called those guys. I was like, you just had a car checked in. It auto-populated apparently on their website and stuff. They didn't even know they had the car because one of the salesmen took it in and somebody punched in a number. Like, I'm going to come pick this car up this weekend. Drove down to Texas. They didn't even want to sell it to me because the thing had a misfire code. Got it cheap because they thought it was going to auction. Anyway, brought that car back, and I've had it ever since. Even though that I don't use the car at all, that car has a special place. So I want to keep it around. I want to make something of it. I think I want to make it a killer street car that embarrasses people, unsuspecting people. The drag car, we got to get back into this. To be honest with you, the biggest project I have now is my kids, right? So I have a 2.5-year-old and a 4-month-old now. And the drag car has been sitting ever since we were expecting the first one. So that car's been sitting since November of 21. Done nothing to it. And got parked. And that's what it's been doing ever since. Want to be faster. It could easily have been faster the day that it did the 10 flat. That car, you go back and look at the log. I looked at the log of the second to last run. I didn't look at it for the last run. The second to last run, there were so many mistakes I made during that pass. That car was easily a 9.5 car that day, back in November, I think, of 21. But I screwed up so many things. So I want to try to get back into that car today. That's the first 2. Project ST. Project ST is painful to me because I really want to go out and do the same thing with that car that we did with the Drag 6. I really want to go out there and at least set the stock ST record. The problem is, I got it in my head that I want to tune the car too. And I don't know why I have that in my head, because we know plenty of capable tuners, right? Actually, drag car, when it set the stock turbo quarter-mile record, was tuned by Justin at Freak Tune. Still a great friend of ours, so maybe I'll just have him do it again. But to learn to tune another platform is not an overnight thing. You got to spend the time, you got to go through the work. I could really use that card probably to learn how to tune. I just don't have the time to do it. But in any case, Project ST, I really want to go out and make it a really quick stock turbo car to start, and then put a monster turbo on it, just like we did with drag car, ultimately. And the 4th one was the GR Corolla. I don't know yet. This is the answer to that. I know I want to design our typical motor mounts, catch can kit, and all that stuff. With it beyond that, I really don't know. I feel like I have more projects than I can deal with as it is. Not sure that I want to pick up another real get into it and build car. Well, that one may just be parts and make sure everything works. And it's honestly not a bad daily driver, so I may just drive that around for a while just to really put it through its paces. Obviously, we're going to do some track stuff. We're going to do some autocrossing. I'll probably take it to the drag strip a few times because, again, we really want to test the parts that we make. But beyond that, I don't know that I have a real long-term goal with that car. So my background about why I went into what I did professionally or what I do professionally or why I bring value to Damond Motorsports or why this thing with me and Matt and eventually Austin works so well. So I mentioned earlier that I grew up kind of doing woodworking, maintaining our church, blah, 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 blah. You know, everything, indoor, outdoor, sprinkler systems, lights, painting, blah, blah, blah. So knew how to use my hands real well. In high school, I had the unfortunate experience of switching high schools while I was in the middle of a school year. Don't make your kids move while they're in the middle of high school. It sucks. You lose all your friends. You start over. And where I found my place was where I could go when I kind of felt like crap, right, was to the autos lab. So I started taking, they probably just called it autos 1, 2, 3, 4. It took 4 semesters of autos and would spend a bunch of time there because I knew how to use my hands. It was stuff that was kind of fun to me. And you'd work on what they would do is actually bring in different teachers' cars. They need this or that, you know, and whatever. I'd spend a bunch of time there. Now, a lot of you will understand that your parents have expectations of you, right? So my grades kind of took a slump and all that stuff, but I was really good with my hands. Man, I just wanted to go work on cars. So I'm visiting different technical schools and thinking, yeah, I kind of want to go wrench, but I know my parents aren't going to hear it. So I talked to my autos teacher about that. And I think he's passed away since, but I even remember my teacher's name back from, hell, it's been 20 something years since I graduated high school. And what I told him is, I really want to just do this, but I know my parents want to hear of it. And he looks at me and said, you're probably one of the best damn mechanics I've had through these classes. You're good with your hands. You think through what you got to do. Why don't you become an engineer? Because you'll actually know what it takes to do this stuff, and you'll know how to design the stuff so that this is easier. And I'm looking at him like, why wasn't that obvious to me 2 minutes ago? So based on what my autos teacher said, I went to become a mechanical engineer at U of I in Urbana-Champaign. So became a mechanical engineer that was very determined to keep using my hands. And I'll be damned if I don't meet engineers every day that don't know what a wrench looks like. It's incredible how few people in this profession actually know how to do things, I guess. I mean, they could sit and, you know, go through formulas and textbooks and stuff, but it's almost kind of scary how few of them actually have a hobby or interest or something that requires them to use their hands. So that's what drove me into mechanical engineering. While I was in school, I became the team lead of one of the SAE teams, where you have to design what's essentially a one-person go-kart is really what it ends up being, an off-road go-kart from the ground up. I learned how to fabricate, learned how to weld a little bit, and I still weld a little bit now. Learn how to do stress analysis, how to, you know, actually make models and drawings and prints, how to put an engine on a dyno. I took classes that walked you through that, and I think I was the first person at U of I to ever put one of our little lawnmower engines that you're required to use. I think I was the first person to ever put one of those on a dyno, and we bought a bunch of engines and kind of picked the best one that matched with our gear ratios. So I brought a lot of thought and engineering to something that was trivial to try and get an advantage, and we did pretty good in the competitions we went to. But I'm very, very grateful to this day. I couldn't tell you the names of any of my teachers except my autos teacher and my physics teacher. And my physics teacher, because he would let me sleep through every class, because physics was just second nature to me. I pissed so many people off by like setting the curve on the final when I was sleeping 4 days out of 5. And my autos teacher, that without this man, I would not be where I was. Without his guidance to basically say, just go do engineering. It lines right up. I mean, it was so obvious. But without him saying that, I probably wouldn't have figured it out. So that's how I ended up becoming a mechanical engineer. I've done stress analysis during my career. I've actually now, it's funny, quick version, funny story. I've actually put a TurboSmart wastegate on a 5,000 horsepower diesel engine because of my experience with Damond, and I design diesel engine components for the day job. I'm a cylinder liner engineer. I'm a piston engineer. I do piston ring design also. All that stuff plays into kind of what we do here. I design hard parts for a living, whether it's inside this building or outside. I've also done control strategies. I've ran engines on multiple fuels at the same time with multiple injectors at the same time. Kind of just jumps right into what we're trying to do here and what people try to do day in and day out to make horsepower, right? It all just kind of blends together. My hobby is my profession, and my profession is my hobby. I learn things on both sides that I apply to the other. So Wonderland Racing is another company that we're now a part of. We'll call it a sister company. We work out of the same shop. Here's a Damond car. Here's a Wonderland car. Literally both feet away from me. It's the only reason it's a separate project, separate group is because we got this awesome dude named Austin in it. Hopefully you watch Austin's video too and get an idea of what's in his head. We'll say he's unique. And Wonderland Racing exists as it does, or it exists as it does now with me and Matt, a part of it, because I think something like 6, 8, 10 years ago, I saw something in Austin that was similar to what I was doing. I had a hobby. We were all on the forums at the time, and I thought this hobby could kind of turn into something bigger, and started designing stuff, started looking at things differently than what people do, right? You get a lot of people on forums, Facebook, whatever's out there that are kind of just spitting things, but they won't actually go look at a unique solution to a problem that they have. And I saw this other guy named Ayustin on the forum that was looking at different solutions for things. And I thought, this kid's going to turn into something at some point. And I call him a kid because to be quite honest with you, I think he's probably 15, 20 years younger than me or something like that. So I don't remember if I had this conversation in my head or with Matt or in one of our chats or something, but I think at one point I went back and found the chat, and I showed it to Austin after we got into Wonderland Racing together. But I said, when this kid gets out of school, we're going to see if we can do something together. And sure enough, Austin went through school. I think he went for automotive engineering, kept his hobby, kept looking at how to do things differently on cars, got the professional education that allows him to design things faster, has worked at some places that give him a different perspective and give him a lot of opportunities and access to other resources and people. And when he came out, it was like, hey, you still up for this? Or are you up for this at all? I kind of want to see if we can make something out of this, make this thing grow. Obviously, Damond existed at the time, and Damond's got resources that maybe Austin by himself wouldn't have had. But I had my eye on Austin for probably 6, 8 years. That sounds kind of creepy when I say it like that, but I think I told everybody. Yeah, he might have been a little young when I first spotted him, I guess. So you can't hear back there, but what Austin was just saying is that the first memory he has of meeting us, and probably I can't remember anything because I've been hit in the head too many times. First time we met him was down at Dan's house, another forum member, the guy we went down to Daytona with. Me, Matt, Chris, and Dan were the guys that were down in Daytona. So we're down at Dan's house, and Matt and Austin was out there. It was the first time we met him. And again, it was, here's another guy with similar interests. We can probably do something together. And again, in my head, it's very powerful to have your profession be your hobby. He still has a profession where he's kind of doing this full-time, or has had professions where he's doing this full-time, and does the Wonderland stuff on the side as a hobby to make it a permanent career. It's very powerful when your job is doing stuff that you like. I wholeheartedly believe that, and I'm glad that I'm able to do that with Damond and now with Wonderland Racing. Well, I think that gives us another edge as a company that a lot of other people don't have. It's not just us hawking parts. It's us being enthusiasts, us owning the cars, us racing the cars, us going out there and talking to people that have these and drive these, people that, have long sold the cars, haven't driven them in years, but because we met through these cars, we know each other's kids' names and we still keep in touch. I think that's really what drove this company, both of them maybe, to begin with. And so I'm proud of that. I'm really proud of these companies being born from us just helping each other. What would I tell 10 years ago me? I think I'm a little bit unique when you talk to most people. I'm actually very, very happy with where I am. So 10 years ago me, I would have just said, keep on, baby, let's go. 10, 15, 20 years ago, if anything, maybe I would have gotten into what I would tell much younger me. Me and Chris probably got to go back more than 10 years. 10 years isn't quite far enough compared to the other guys. I think what I would say is make sure you understand that this hobby can really turn into something. I mean, God, we have done some stuff you wouldn't believe with people that, we had never met before. I mean, hell, Chris and I, one of the Midwest meets, somebody was at a track day and they blew their motor, and I'm standing at the track. This guy we've met one time for a couple of hours blew his motor, and I'm standing at the track. Chris and I were living together at the time. We were renting a house, and I called Chris. I was like, hey, guy that's a part of Nader blew his motor. I'm going to have him tow the car to our house. By the way, he's got to go out of town for a week. He's going to have the motor shipped to our house, and we're going to swap his motor while he's out of town. And Chris said, all right, cool. Like, we just volunteered to switch a guy's motor that we had met in person all of 2 hours. We knew him from the forum, but they're like, yeah, shit, we'll put in, whatever, 10, 15, 20. I mean, it's not like we were professional mechanics. This wasn't a 6-hour job. We halfway didn't know what the hell we were doing at the time. Yeah, and he had to fly out of town. So, and I keep in touch with him. I know his daughter's name, and I know he's having another one. I mean, for God's sake, we're friends, and we send each other, kids gifts and whatnot. And this was 15 years ago at this point or something. With the people 15 year ago me, I would like to tell 15 year ago me that the people that you're doing this with are people you're going to know forever. To hell with the cars. I mean, this is a hobby that turns into something you're going to do for a lifetime, whether it be your business, whether it be your living, whether it be just something you go out to track, you set records, whatever. And ultimately, all that sounds fun. I mean, that's our ultimate goal. But I mean, these people are family at this point. So damn, I got deep too. I didn't intend to do that. But if I'm being real, if I really wanted to send 15, 20 year younger me a message about what to do with cars and stuff, is don't do any of it. Put your money into stocks. You'll be able to buy much better cars at this point.
Invest in Amazon 20 years ago.
There you go. Find a good investment and put your money in there is the real message if you really care about money. If you're like me and you rather cherish the moments with the people you got around you, just dive in deep and don't forget it.